Here we are. I was just doing some hand signals there. I've been doing some puppetry over Christmas, and my show's coming together well. Could explain that.
Advert, Tato crisps.
Yeah, that's why I left the commercial radio industry,
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, we're off. It's the Cardiff City phone in. Last one for 2024, the annus horribilis, not the Annus Abrahams, of a year for us. Let's hope the 2025 is better. Jeff De La Cruz in Ireland, Gary Lee, and Pete Bradbury. So good panel. Nigel Blues was going to be on the panel too, but unfortunately he's got the lurgy, so he can't be with us. So, Jeff, we were chatting beforehand, the four of us, and there's varying opinions on stuff. So I'll go to you first. A ray of positivity, yeah. So I said to Pete when I first spoke to Pete earlier tonight, after that Oxford game, if we got battered at Watford, this would have been, quite a different show. However, we did turn in a really good performance, and we got a win. First one in 10, admittedly, but we got a win against a side who were sixth. They're already in the playoffs. If they'd won, they would have gone fifth. Fantastic home record, and we got a win. So there were signs of positivity there and hope. Jeff, would you say?
Oh, totally, yeah, much better. I think the way he set up was a bit of a shock. I thought, he's going 5 at the back, and then suddenly to see Chambers, central midfielder,
yeah,
I thought that was a masterstroke to me, an absolute tactical masterstroke. When Rizza and Shaw had got together and worked this one out, it worked. Chambers had been struggling as a centre back.
Yeah,
and yet to see him there, and I think it gave Robertson a hell of a lot of space to work into then. I really, really liked it. And CO then played probably the best game he's ever played for Cardiff, when he didn't have to do long balls. Nice short, snappy balls, counter-pressing. Yeah, really, really, really good. I enjoyed it. And the more of that, please.
Yeah, we'd all say that. I mean, the point you made there straight away, you mentioned, Richard Shaw, he's come in. We'll probably never know, we'll never know nothing to Cardiff City, but we'll never know where that just idea came from. But I still didn't see one win in a million years, Jeff, because one thing about Chambers, he's got good pedigree as a footballer. He's always got a mistake in it. So he's the shaky pass. So I wouldn't see him in the fielder, but in a way, putting him there just ahead of for. He's good boy. He's not in the back line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there is a mistake in Chambers when he's a centre back. You can get away with it when he is playing central midfield, and plus the fact then when we're defending corners, he can go back in there. I just think that was a masterstroke, and I really do think he played probably his best game for us, Chambers too, which enabled CO to play a great game, Robertson to play a great game. Willock, I thought, played a great game too. I was witnessing. That's how we can play, lads.
Yeah, and Pete, I don't know. Hopefully, you can hear me. Okay, somebody said it's a bit odd. I don't know why it would be the case. Pete, so after we'll go back to the Oxford game later on, but you must have been pleasantly surprised that City up and looked like we were all fighting for each other. And when that first goal went in, that celebration on the touchline, was kind of indicative, I think, of a side that was, working together. Would you say?
Yeah, I thought we were great yesterday, and I'll put my hands up. I'm not his biggest fan of Rizza, and I've said it before on here. The players don't need a mate; they need a manager. But what I will say, credit to them. Yesterday, I think Jeff's right in the way it was tactically set up. I was a little bit surprised when I saw the side, thinking it would be a back three again, and I wasn't happy about that. I thought we were getting exposed massively against Oxford, and the three centre halves really struggled. However, Chambers, it's not as played centre midfield in the Premier League. We've mentioned it on here. I think Nigel Harris has called for this, saying that Chambers should be playing in centre midfield before, when I've been on the show with him. And I thought he was excellent then. It freed up Seal. It's not just what Jeff said when he had the ball. It freed up Seal to go chase the ball, break the play up, further up the field. Against Oxford, Seal was getting caught massively in between the midfield and defence. They clearly put Mark Harris in between that gap, and Seal was a little bit laboured in that area. I thought yesterday he played really well, and look, it's a great result. Does it make us forget about the last 6-7 weeks? I don't think so, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I thought Kieran Ashford was fantastic, and I'm a real big fan of his. I watched him in the under-23s earlier on this season up at Cambrian, and I've heard nothing but good things from people involved in youth football in Wales about how good Kieran Ashford is, and I think his pace made a massive difference. So great result, great win. I still think we're in big trouble, but that's a big 3 points yesterday, particularly with everybody else winning, and no complaints on yesterday's performance, Steve, at all. I mean, but you've got to look at the wider context of how bad we've been in the last 6-7 weeks.
We'll come back to that, because I know you'll want to talk about that. You know, as a lot of City fans would. So Gary, the last 2 games, obviously, we said on the last week that 4 points from those 2 games would be great, like a draw in the one and the win in the other. In an ideal world, we would have beaten Oxford, wouldn't we? And then we would have taken the defeat against Watford, because they're our rivals at the bottom. So in a way, it was kind of the other way around. But the players, the squad, the club, I suppose, I think, Gary, owed the fans that kind of performance, after that embarrassing show against Oxford. And I thought they basically delivered, really.
Yeah, they massively owned the fans a performance, particularly the ones going away twice over Christmas and the cost and everything. Oxford was absolutely appalling, disgusting performance. It's probably one of the most gutless performances I've seen for a long, long time. They just rolled over there. It was a fantastic result, and I didn't see that one coming. I wouldn't have given us, I wouldn't have given us any chance of getting anything up there, quite honestly. But I thought we were stronger. We defended pretty well in the main. We showed a commitment, and we thoroughly deserved our win. But that's just the basic requirement of the team now for every single game for the rest of the season. I agree with Peter. I still think we're in massive trouble, and I still think what we do in the January transfer window will have a massive bearing on whether we stay up or not. Because I still don't think, particularly goals-wise, Robinson apart, we've got enough firepower in the team. And I don't think, obviously, unfortunately, Callum O'Dowd, he was struggling at the end one. He was a bad tackle. Also Willock. So we could find on Wednesday now, coming up against Coventry, one or both of them might not be fit to play again. So we're down to having found a system that looks like it works. We could be, we could be back to bare bones again, and we're running out of midfield players. And so I think, another thing that Risa made a comment, I think, after the Sheffield game, he said in the press conference, he was asking him about, we're looking for replacement, for signings. And he said, yeah, if we get 2, I think 2 would be enough. Well, that's debatable. And then he said, obviously this last week prior to Watford, that we might find it difficult to get players in view of the fact where we are in the table. Well, yeah, that might be a problem as well. So who they can get in a notoriously, like January is hellish hard to get anybody. I don't think we'll be paying fees. It'll be loans. So I think it's a massive, massive month coming up, isn't it? But the performance on Saturday is like, that should be the bare minimum, basic requirement that we put 100% effort into every game and see where it takes us. Because performances like Oxford and the previous 6, to be honest, not acceptable unless you want to get relegated.
Yeah, fair enough. Jeff, any thoughts on that?
Right, we got to look at who we're getting back off injuries. As regards another striking option, I will go again on about Luke Pearce. He played brilliantly for Sligo. You know what I mean? He got a couple of goals, 2 assists, but it's his running. He finds pockets of space. He's got an eye for the goal, you know? He could be an option off the bench. He's played against men. He'll be more or less match fit. I know that he's been training with the first team. You'll see him on the bench. Keon Atete, he's picked up another injury. So I would have thought the system they're playing would have suited Atete. You know, I know a lot of people don't like him, Bambi on ice, this, that, and the other. But he was given a job to do by Bullet, which he's not suited to. He's not an actual target man. Just because he's tall, he's not the most bulky of lads. But my God, he's fast. You ever seen him? I was watching him in the under-21s last week. God, he just stretches his legs and he lopes, but he covers the ground. It's unbelievable. And I hope they give him, whether they give him one more under-23s, which would be on January the 7th, see how he comes out of that. And then I think he'll be an option off the bench. As regards, yes, we need to get in some loanies. Again, I tend to get Irish obsessed with players that I watch in the Irish leagues. There's a kid who played Shamrock Rovers. His name is Johnny Kenny. He's on Celtic. He's gone back there. The first thing I did on Saturday was check if he'd actually put him on the bench. Brendan Rodgers, he's not. He'd be worth it. Again, he scored in the Euro Conference League. He played 6, scored 5, 1 assist. In the Irish or the Premier Irish League, he played 29, scored 13, I believe, and 5 assists. He would be an option. And there's another lad who played for Sligo. He's an Arsenal development lad. He's 22. His name is Jack Henry Francis. He's the ideal replacement for Robertson. If Robertson gets injured, you could put him in. He can bang out long ball, you know what I mean? And he presses, and then he reminds me of Seo sometimes because he presses, he counter presses, and he's got an angle.
Yeah.
They are out there, you know what I mean? There's going to be many, many more that I haven't come across, but I've seen these players play, and I know what they're like. I would recommend them. Not that
No, well, Nigel Harris just got to mention because apparently he called the Callum Chambers thing. So, sometimes there is some wisdom on this program. Pete, so the kind of players I don't know those players, but obviously there's lots of young players around, and in the Premiership they have their squad, and if they're outside the squad, come January time they can go out. But I know you're a big fan of the youngsters as well. Are others, do you think that's like Cian Ashford and Capaccio, are they making the point that maybe we got our own good youngsters there too?
In my opinion, those two should be playing. I think Capaccio again should be in. He played the second half against Oxford, and he's rested him for the Watford game. And Minamot had a great game. But Capaccio's a modern day football.
Yeah.
Capaccio's a modern day fullback, gets up and down. He's got lots of pace. I think he looks a really, really good prospect. You've got Louis Giles as well from my neck of the woods here in Ely. He's a very good left back. We only produce quality in Cairo and Ely. But I mean, it's but in all seriousness, I don't think enough opportunities to our younger players, whereas Swansea, Bristol City are more open to doing so. And Ashford, I don't think should be dropped now. I mean, someone's put a comment in here saying Martin Ryan's just said Ashford's never had a bad game for the first team, and I agree. Every time he comes on, he's affected the game. We're desperately lacking pace in that final third, and Ashford has got pace. And not only that, I think what we saw with the second goal is how intelligent he is. He's made the run. It's a great ball by Willett.
Yeah.
But how many young players would have slashed a shot there rather than looking
Okay.
up and squaring it.
Yeah.
He's an intelligent player. I think he should be in the side regularly. I think if we look at sliding doors moments in this season, and I don't know what the boys think, but I think losing Isaac Davis, I think in pre-season has been a massive blow to us, because he was starting most of that pre-season as Robinson would start the game, and then Isaac would come on in the second half, and I think he was going to have a big part to play this year as a striker, and he's got bags of pace as well. So Jeff is right on the injuries. I still think that it's not rocket science what happened yesterday. We put players who could win us the ball. We had pace so we could move the ball quickly. We looked a threat on the break. And if you've got pace in the final third and you're able to win the ball and defend well away from home, and you're able to get the ball in the final third, not long balls, but quick, play forward passes, then you've got half a chance in this division to get points away from home. I think a lot of this season we passed the ball too often in our own half. We've not had enough, and that's not a knock on the people on possession-based football. It's a knock on us not having enough movement in the final third, and we had plenty of that yesterday, and that's what we've been missing. I still think we need to look at a striker. I'll bow down to Jeff's knowledge on Irish football there, although it is an underrated talent pool over in the Irish Premiership. It is a good standard of football. We are getting teams qualifying for the group stages in Europe now. However, there's another kid who's playing really well in League One. I think it is Louis Barry from Aston Villa. He's been banging them in League Two and in League One now. Villa looking for a championship loan is a rumour. He'd be great down here, but we've got to have someone we've got to have a goal, get it right in this window, because we haven't got it right. We haven't got it right in strikers since probably Sorry Cabba. So we
were kind of lucky with him as well. Although sorry, Cabba was, he scored goals, but he scored some quite unusual goals. He didn't look like a solid, prolific scorer. He scored quite a few goals, but we kind of struck gold there with him, didn't we? A bit,
Yeah, what did he score? 7?
Yeah, he moved in the
late
penalty
17, he scored 8.
Yeah, he scored goals, but he scored some worldies, really. He's not like a fox in the box type. Gary, there's a question on from Paul. Yeah, I'm sure you know Paul. I'm guessing, Gary, you were probably both away games, over the Christmas period. Is that right?
No, I wasn't actually. No.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay, but you've been to a lot of away games, and I spoke to Viv on the weekend. Viv calls me up now and again. He kind of gives me the gut feeling of it. The point from Paul there, the point about Oxford is a really good one. Like everyone, I kind of wrote off. I didn't think we'd get a result of Watford. How can we look so gutless in one game and then 3 days later, the guts, the fight, and the spirit, which, as you said, is kind of the bottom line of what we want. If you give us that, then you're halfway there, aren't you?
Don't know. Probably a better setup, but at Watford, and obviously we scored in the first minute, which gives you a real lift then, doesn't it, from a side struggling. I thought the 2 goals we scored at Watford were probably 2 of the best team, pass and move, good cross, good finish. I mean, the second one, it was great. Willock came inside and he found Ashford, and like Pete said, I thought he was going to belt it at the time, and he just slid it across, and it was the simple goals always look the easiest goals, don't they? But it was a lovely goal, wasn't it? But I don't think though that you mentioned Louis Barry. I think he'll end up at a team in a more favourable position than us. The problem we have, like Reece, I accept what he said. It's going to be difficult to get loan players in, it's going to be not going to be fees, it's going to be loan players. Loan players are going to be a bit reticent to come to us in our current position. And I also think that teams looking to loan out players are also going to be looking to loan them out to teams further up the league. It's going to be very, very difficult, and I think we need at least one forward, probably two, because we've got an injury problem. I mean, Robinson is obviously carrying this long-standing Achilles problem, isn't he? Because Risa mentioned in the after-match press on after the Watford game that he had sort of more or less left him out of a couple of games and a couple of days sort of training just to make sure that he was fit to play. That he didn't break down again. He's nursing him through games. I was surprised he stayed on for the entire, because I thought they'd hook him after 10 minutes. I was surprised he played the whole game, but he looked okay. Touch wood.
But the thing with him, Gary, the thing with Robinson, it's chalk and cheese really. But if you compare him to someone like Mate, or should we say Kanga, Robinson, you'd think if you're going to play kind of one main man up front, you'd think traditionally, wouldn't you play like a big guy, like Jeff said earlier about Keon? But Robinson has that mobility and football intelligence, doesn't he?
He's not that. He's never been a target man anyway. The West Brom, is he? And I take on board what Jeff said about the tech, but honestly, I watched him for the under-21s. He played against QPR, I think. They trained 45 minutes, and I just don't think he's going to be our saviour. He hasn't played football for 6-7 months, has he? And he's made of glass, and I just don't think he's the sort of player that we need now in a relegation scrap, unfortunately.
Should we give our Irish?
I just don't think he's going to be. That's just my opinion. I mean, we all got opinions, haven't we? So
let's get Jeff's opinion on it, because I think he's got a different opinion. But the other thing is as well, of course, the other smoke screen around that is there was already rumored Huddersfield, we're interested, and we do need to move some players out, Jeff. So
I think to suggest that Huddersfield would want to take somebody who hasn't actually kicked the ball for 6 months, if they want him, over to you.
They're pushing for the playoffs, aren't they, in League One? So
exactly.
Bringing the championship
striker, the tech's going to push him into the thing. You carry on. I don't think.
If you were in League One,
think so. But there you are.
If you were 7th or 8th in League One, maybe you'd.
If they want him, they can have him. There you are. I'd be quite happy to see him go to Huddersfield.
Jeff, I'm going to come back on the Keon Tete front.
No. I'd keep it, definitely. He's not a target man.
What is he, though, Jeff? What is he?
He's a striker, but he's not the target man. He's more like a tall bloody Robinson to me.
So how many goals did he score when he's been fit, though? He's only scored about 6 goals in 2.5 years, isn't he? 2 years? 2 years?
Yeah, but he's been playing in the wrong position. They've played him as an actual target man. He needs to be almost in the 10. You know what I mean? He runs around. I like the way what Riz is doing at the moment. If you notice, they're everywhere. They're crisscrossing.
Yeah.
Robinson's here. Robinson's there. Robinson's over there. And they're swapping over and they're doing this. Suit a tet. I know what it's like. Once you get a downer on a player, it's very difficult for that.
No, it's not that. I just think he's a million miles away from being, he hasn't kicked, he's not fit enough to. He's a million miles away from playing championship football.
But what I'll also say is, what were we thinking about Robinson last year? What a load of rubbish. Get rid of him. Look at him.
I don't think many people said that about Callum.
Oh, yeah, they were. There was plenty of.
And if they were, I disagree with them on that. Because
there were loads of people. This Robinson, he's rubbish. He's toxic. He's bad for the club. Get rid of him. He was being lumped in with there's a few players there who are well poisoners. We know that. I think one's going. One's definitely going.
Names.
I heard you saying Robinson, get rid of him. Get rid of him. Jeez. Christ, going back a few years, I heard they said this Whittingham offers us nothing anymore. Get rid. Jesus. Unbelievable, some of the City fans. But I know what it's like. You get a downer on a player, it's very difficult to convince people. I say in the situation where we are, where we're not going to get Louis Barry, it's going to be Sunderland, Middlesbrough.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's going to be one of those sides who's going to get Louis Barry.
Yeah.
As soon as that name popped up, I saw something as EFL News or something, and I thought, oh, he'd be lovely, but we ain't going to get him. You know?
No, we're not going to go.
We are. I mean, this is what I try to pick out, these little tiny gems that no one's ever heard of. But you know what I mean? Or you see him play and you think, well, he's decent. He's with a big club. They don't sign him for nothing. And they're trying to do something with them, sending them out, learning the game.
Jeff,
that's what worries me, though, is that if the same people who have scouted people like Kanga and El Ghazi and all that are responsible for getting people through the door,
whoever they are,
January, then God help us. But and I think, knowing how I think, I wouldn't be surprised if when we play Swansea on the 18th of January, we still haven't got anybody through the door. They should be virtually getting them in at 12 tomorrow. You know what I mean? They should be there in the first week of January, ready to go, ready to hit the ground. But I just don't have any hope that the club will act that quick as usual. But we'll wait and see.
Well, I just want going back to that scouting bit. You know what I mean? I've looked at some of the names mentioned there. They got rid of one recently, haven't they? He got the push just before Christmas. I can't think of the name. There's two there. They're two 30-year-old.
Fagan Wilcott has gone to York, hasn't he? The centre half, young centre half. He's gone to York.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think January is an awful window when you're in the position we're in, because it goes back to not getting your summer transfer window proper done. And that goes back to not having a proper recruitment team that look at the long-term recruitment of the club, And like I say, whilst the final exclamation point on any transfer involves tension, this is where we are, and people like that, because then there needs to be a director of football in place that is given full autonomy to manage a budget and the responsibility, along with the manager, to bring players in. And we have a head of recruitment, but the head of recruitment's not signing players; he's just recommending players.
Yeah. Pete, we also had, if you remember, we had apparently an expert team in the background who were helping us to choose the manager.
Yeah,
and when days later, we were still wondering who it was going to be.
Well, I've heard one of those expert names on the grapevine was Russell Slade, and as far as I'm concerned, they should stop talking to people like Russell Slade about football in 2024 and start looking at what other clubs are doing. And we'll come to the management situation later, because one win, as far as I'm concerned, Jeff made a point. They're a very fluid team, Cardiff, but the problem is, Jeff, they don't run in behind. And this is why that Watford game's so refreshing. Yeah. We've got too many players who drop off short. We haven't got anybody who goes in behind and sort of stretches a defence going the other way. Tete's an enigma, mine, because I sort of agree with both Jeff and Gary, right? Because I think it is a talented player there. And I do think Jeff is right. I don't think he is a traditional target man. Problem is, we haven't had enough time to see what he is, because whenever he gets a run of games, he gets injured. Yeah. And he's just, I just think we can't afford, with his injury record, to be relying on someone like him coming back and saving us. So, but it's gonna be. It's a classic conundrum of a club that's been badly run on the footballing side for many, many years. Yeah. And all three of us, I think, agree that well-run football clubs don't recruit the way we do. And until that's sorted, we're going to be, I think, in a lot of trouble for a long time to come.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you the thing you said there, until that's sorted and for a long time to come, they're going to be in the same sentence for some time. There's something I just want to bring up here, and I want Jeff to have the first response to this. I know that he'll love, Steve Wiggy Wiggins, big shout out for not playing from the back. Your thoughts on that, Jeff? You're a big fan of that.
Yeah, brilliant. Though there was a stat. I'm sure it's a bit of a mistake, but we had 19 backward passes in that game. Against what? 19.
Much better, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. And you have a look at, who cares? People get obsessed with possession. That's just the amount of passes going back and forth, people. You know, I mean, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, you get a lot of possession. But with 19 backward passes, where you go to other games where we play, we're in the 200s when we're playing out from the back. We were so much more direct yesterday. And Alnick, his kicking was bloody good too.
I don't mind, Steve, playing on the back when it's when its purpose is to go forward and be quick and incisive. My issue is that we slow it down when we're playing from the back. Good teams that play through the back, play quickly. Man City is struggling a bit now, but when they're fully going, they play quick, two-touch football, going for with the aim of going forward. We take the easy option too often when facing our own goal, and what I want to see is a little bit of a mix. Sometimes you can go direct, and you have to go direct, particularly away from home. Nothing wrong with that. But what impressed me yesterday is when we did get the ball down and play and go forward, we were quick and incisive with it. And there was spells in the first 20 minutes of Oxford where we were looking pretty tidy. It's just our confidence went as soon as they scored, and then we completely fell apart. And they got the ability to play, but it can't be the slow stuff. We are far too easy to organise against and get bodies behind the ball, and we lose out on ideas, which is why I think Ashford was a massive difference. And I thought Tanner, when he came on, made a massive difference as well.
He played well when he came on, didn't he?
On both sides.
Yeah, he looked good when he came on. So there's lots of other coming through here. Gary, what's your thoughts on playing from the back?
Well, I don't think we got the personnel to do it really. I think we went back. I think on Saturday our stats up till then we were actually getting, like, particularly at home, we were getting like 55-60% of the possession when we never looked like scoring. On Saturday, I think we went back to the old days where we were having like 27% of the possession and looked like scoring far more often. But it's strange, I suppose. But we played quicker football. We got to move the ball quicker. I think, you've got to move the ball, and we did. We did. It was chalk and cheese, wasn't it, compared to Oxford? I mean,
absolutely, totally.
Yeah, but like I say again, that's got to be the base level now, and we got to try and keep playing that way. Whether we can is another matter. I think it all depends, how many people can keep fit, because we've had an appalling injury record this year, and we lost Turnbull when he was looking. He actually showing something like we thought he was going to be. And him and Robertson in a couple of the games, and he can pass. And then all of a sudden, he's probably out long term now, isn't he? If he's had an hamstring operation, and then we're running a bit thin on the midfield players. So. But yeah, it was. Look, I never for 1 minute thought we were going to get anything at Watford. So it was a massive improvement. But they just got to keep that going. To be honest, whether they can is another matter. Fingers crossed they can, because they need to for every 23 games left.
Of course, the thing was, Jeff, at Watford, we scored within a minute. So at last we scored first. And it was the reaction of Robinson running over to the manager, and it just seemed to suggest, a bit of fight and a bit of togetherness. So I thought that was really encouraging. We've got to talk about this. Obviously, it's going on again. It's the fan group have called town to have a meeting with supporters. It's on the BBC page, and they're talking about basically they put the original letter in. They had to be honest, a fairly derisory and kind of confrontational response, which didn't actually answer any of the questions they were asking. And as far as I can see from the communication, is everything, because they're pretty kind of articulate and fairly decent, nice bunch of people. Actually, they've put it to them that they just want some clarity, and they want some communication from the club, and they want a dialogue. So they're asking for it again, like sort of 3 weeks later, because they just haven't had it, And any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Probably, if they were going to put it out, they should have done it straight away after the Oxford game. They put it out after the Watford game. To me, they missed an opportunity there. It seems now you play your best cards when you play it straight away, and they didn't. And they held it back. It was written on the 28th. Why choose today to put it out after the Watford game? To me, I can't see that. I can't see what they're trying to get at now. They should have left it, and I think they should have probably left it until the FA Cup week, with no league matches up. We got an important game coming up Wednesday, and to me, it's prodded the hornet's nest a bit. Don't get me wrong, I don't like Tan. He should be answering, but I think they just timed it badly. Timed it really badly. You play your best cards. I've been in union disputes. A lot of it is saber rattling, obviously, from both sides until it gets sorted. But I don't think we're ever going to sort this Tan situation out for another 18 months.
Yeah.
And we're stuck with him. Now we keep going over the old ground. Tan's out. We need a director of football. It ain't going to happen. We got to deal with reality.
So I would take a slight. Okay, I take a slightly. Yeah. Yeah, but they're not the people we're talking about. But people we're talking about, Pete. Like I say, the fans, the various fans groups. It's not a really blunt instrument. Tan out. It's not exactly. It's can we be run like a professional football club? Can we have some communication between the fans and the club? Can we have a response to our very polite request? And a lot of bitterness and resentment and anger towards the club and the way it's been run. It's not just simply Tan out, is it? It's much bigger than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think the fans have. I don't think we've been strong enough as fans, to be honest. Back in the 90s, I remember protesting against nearly every chairman we had. Now, I'm not. I guess the issue for me is how they responded to that letter. I thought was disgraceful. I think the fans then getting labelled as incendiary for asking what are pretty standard questions in terms of openness and transparency that in any organisation or any business with the number of customers that we, as they like to call us, have. You'd think they'd treat us with a little bit more respect. Personally, I think what Jeff says whilst right, in terms of the reality, that shouldn't be the reality, should it? There's no excuse for a part-time chief executive not being at the club 5 days a week. If you're getting paid to work as a chief executive of a championship football club, you should be there running the club daily. There's no excuse really for the lack of engagement with supporters when they ask what the long-term strategy is. Turning round and saying that getting to the Premier League is our long-term strategy doesn't make it just saying it as an ambition doesn't mean it's a strategy. Turning around and looking at the way we've gone about our business with managers in the last few years, appointing interims, then sacking them, then going and getting someone else in June, then the same cycle over and over again is not a well-run football club. And I get Jeff's points, and I see where he's coming from, but a lot of us spend thousands of pounds worth of our money, not just on season tickets. I look at my Christmas stuff for the kids and for me and for my family. We're all City fans. The amount of money we spend at that club for loyalty, I think we deserve better, and I think thousands of other people deserve better. And it's not like a normal business. You're custodians of a institution that is a major, and I'll be a little bit political on this, Steve. There's a major institution in our city, in our region, a major economic driver for our region and our city. A lot of people who were involved in those fan groups were there well before Vincent Tan was, and will be there long time after. They deserve to be treated with a little bit more respect, and I hope the response from the club won't be as toxic and incendiary as the one they sent to fans that following on the first letter, because I thought the first letter was fair enough. It's time to start, it's time to start being open and communicative. There are people like me who are in between, who understand the economic realities of how Tan Banks wills his club, but would just like him to run his club better, run his football club better with football people involved whose jobs are to engage with us as fans. They're not doing it now. And I feel sorry for Steve. They wheel him out all the time, Steve Borley.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Steve is not a major decision maker at that football club anymore. Yeah. We all know that. A lot of us would rather he was a major decision maker in our football club. He wants what's best for the football club. But on the timing of the letter, I don't think it matters. Whatever the timing was, the club won't win yesterday doesn't mean the club is not in a existential crisis off the field. When your fans away from home are singing "Sack the board," "You're not fit to wear the shirt," and Vincent Tan, get out of our club. They're the people who are paying their money. That 1,700 are going every week in the main, Yeah. So I think we're in you've done something wrong, and they need to repair the damage and come up with a plan to repair the damage. First thing I would do if I was him, I would get rid of Ken Chew and bring in the proper CEO. But I mean, you could talk about it all blue in the face. Jeff is absolutely spot on. It's all down to one man. He probably will react to the letter as stubborn and belligerent as he did the last one. And we'll still be in this mess. And I think people end up playing this march at Swansea, right? Because I think it will be attended by a lot more people than people are thinking. And they aren't people who just want, they aren't just the same old faces who want Sam Hammam back. Because I'm not in that camp by any stretch of the imagination either. But there'll be people like me and others who are frustrated at being ignored and having our support taken for granted, who would just want who will just be marching for some sort of change. And I think that's where they are, Steve. And I think it just needs. Club have made the right mess of this since the original letter went in. Well, they've made the right mess of it since Bullet was sacked. The lack of communication has been appalling.
So I'll bring Gary in because it just seems to me as though that they remind me of a. Pete said he'd get political earlier. Remind me of a certain government not that long ago, kind of stumbled from one crisis to another, kept on making mistakes. I like all they have to do now, as far as I can see, is recognize we messed up a bit there. We were inappropriate and untoward towards our fan base by being kind of vindictive towards them. When all they do is love the club that we're running, so let's try and get some message out there which tries to make things better, rather than either not saying anything or making things worse.
Yeah, I think both letters were perfectly in order. It
very well written.
They were. It just voiced an opinion of representatives, like Pete said, of people like the Supporters Club and the other travel clubs who go away week in, week out, travel all over the country. Love the football club as we all do. Don't want to see them go down into Division 1, and but they're just ignoring everybody really, and to call it, as they said, incendiary as they did. I think the second letter was written after we had lost not 1 in 7, wasn't it? But I think because the way it was put to that it's got to go through the right channels, I think probably that letter's only come out today, although probably the board or whoever, the people who it was addressed to, saw it a few days ago. So they did it this time in the right manner. So they had pre-knowledge of it before it went on social media and message boards and all that to sort of follow that, what they said was the right etiquette to do at the time. But it's not, but I don't think anything is going to, change. And, like Jeff said, I think he's here as long, we're going to be in this situation as long as the current ownership's got the club, really.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a financial situation, obviously, which goes above and beyond football, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, massively. We know. I just don't see, like we've said before, I don't see what his game plan is really, because he's asking far too much for the club as it stands now, anyway. Because he obviously wants somebody to take on the debts or any debts, doesn't he? And if we get relegated to League One, surely somebody's told him that the worth of the club's going to half overnight, isn't it? It's going to be a catastrophic thing if we get relegated, because it's not even worth half of what it's worth now, and he's overvaluing it as it is. So once you get relegated, and there's no, I don't agree with anybody who says, oh, let's go down. He might sell up. We can get rid and start all over again.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
It's a long way back from League One. There's bigger clubs that have been in League One for a few years in Cardiff City, like Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday. They didn't bounce straight. It takes a long, and it's a long, and the way we are at the moment, it's not a well-run club. We couldn't just turn it around and come straight back up. I think people are fooling themselves to think that could happen, and that. The answer to all our ills and getting rid of Tan is getting relegated to League One. Unfortunately, it isn't. Yeah. That's not as easy as that, unfortunately.
Jeff, do you want to quickly respond to that?
Well, I totally agree. It's not easy to get out of League One. It's that'll be a very, very difficult time if we go down. But my attitude is, all right. I just try to be realistic about it myself and convince myself. Tan is wrong, yes. The board is wrong, but we're stuck with them. And we've got to work within those boundaries. And it's going to be 18 months, I think. I think it'll be the Salah case getting sorted out one way or the other. Will be the catalyst.
Jeff's spot on that.
I think we're stuck with it until then. It's got to be horrible. But we just got to make the best of it. And personally, all right, I can see where they're coming from. It's polite letters. Did they actually follow the protocol for the second letter, which is through Borley first?
I think they must have, Jeff, because that's why it was dated. It was almost like it was dated 3 or 4 days ago, wasn't it? So 2, 3
that's the way you deal with it. When I was in the RMT, we had to follow certain protocols to speak to management. You had to follow the protocol, or they would throw their toys out of the bloody pram and send letters back like they did, because you hadn't done the protocol. It's crazy. It's like banging your head against the wall.
The thing is,
you save a rattle, and eventually it will get sorted.
If it does resolve around settling the Salah situation, though, that could go take another 18 months through the courts. And someone says, they're trying to counter-sue for something like 120 million for loss of getting relegated from the Premier League in five years ago. It's pretty. Hadn't it been said that none couldn't afford that? They'd go into bankruptcy. They couldn't afford to pay. So whether he's going to accept, they suddenly decide to give him, I think he's got an insurance payout for the Salah thing already, hasn't he? That came through the insurers, didn't it? He got something, didn't he? For obviously,
it was 10 million.
The sad situation. It was absolutely shocking what happened there. It was.
Obviously, it's
tragic, but to try and counter, they just won't pay. They're never going to get 120. He's never going to get 120 million or something. Never.
It's kind of like the analogy springs to mind. The elephant in the room is this ongoing case, but of course it's still very delicate, and a young man died. So I never really felt like getting into that too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine it'll end in an out-of-court settlement, but we'll have to see on that.
Can I bring about the protocols, though? I'm in a union rep and all, Jeff, and I've dealt with trade unions as well. This is not like an employee organisation dispute, though. These are we're paying because how we want to communicate, how that fan advisory board want to communicate with the club is up to them. And they should never apologise for going for the protocol, in my opinion, because they were right. What they were saying was right. And the fans, this nonsense that it has to be, the fans' representatives have to filter their letter through the vice chairman of the football club. No. We have been ignored as a set of fans. I remember there's a Cardiff City Supporters Trust, right? I thought they were bang on signing that letter the way it was done as a member. They were looking after and looking out to the viewpoints of people like me. So this protocol nonsense that they hid behind so that they could try and claim some moral high ground was utter nonsense. And there's no moral high ground at the minute for how this football club is being run. And again, this is a major business with a massive turnover, multi-million-pound business with massive turnover without a full-time CEO. And he's getting paid, Ken, I believe. I might like, well, even if he's doing it voluntary, this club should have a full-time CEO.
I wouldn't have thought
I don't
he was
think
doing it
any other football club in the Championship doesn't have a full-time CEO. And it might, and I that needs to be resolved like desperately. And the weird thing was when Dato Chanchi took over in the first takeover, and then Vincent Tan came in as a backer. First thing they put in was a head of recruitment in Ian Moody. It was meant to be a director of football character, and Geffen Jones is the Geffen Jenkins, I think it was, wasn't it, as the CEO. And for 18 months, that was the best our football club had been running a while. Now, Ian Moody, that issue we all know about, and I think a lot of fault could be placed on Ian Moody and his behaviour for the reason we're in the position we're in now, because it made Tan not trust football people. But at the same time, like how we are able to be in a situation where we're in the 7th largest league in the world, with the turnover that this football club maintains, without a full-time CEO on site, as the clear leader as for the employees and the football and the fans of the football club who know that that's a clear leader in the day-to-day run of the club. It baffles me. He would not run any other retail business. And I know I'm not having Jeff. I'm not having to go at you, Jeff.
No, it baffles me. Joe, with you on this. Yeah, it baffles me.
It's bizarre.
Yeah,
totally.
But it's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
It's not going to change in the short term.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
I just think give it 18 months, let the sleeping dogs lie. Oh God, what am I prodding?
As long as we're not relegated,
now I'm letting sleeping dogs
lie. And
just try to work around the idiot. He's a Far Eastern Chinese businessman. They're very, very autocratic. They really are. You know what I mean? It's what he says goes, and that is the problem. We're dealing with that too. It's a cultural thing.
But unfortunately, he's supposed to be a very successful Far Eastern businessman who's running the football club, and he's looking down the. This is about the 4th season running now where we've flirted with relegation, right? It's even more serious this year because we are still in the bottom 3. Like Pete said, one win doesn't pull us out of the bottom 3. We got 23 massive games coming, and his investment or his football club, unless they pull their finger out a bit rapid and in January get a few players through the door, is going to be halved. We're going to end up in League One, and that's downward spiral then. And unless we do, because the current, it was a brilliant performance Saturday, but I still think we've got a lot of injury-prone players playing. They're playing patched up. Yeah. We could be without a Dowder and Willock on the next game now, so we'll be back to bare bones again. And unless we get some people through the doors in January and get them in early, then we're looking down the barrel of a gun again. I'm looking at the end of January, February fixtures, and thinking February we play Plymouth, Hull City, and Portsmouth in a month in a matter of 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and they now are taking on. I mean, you say about must-win games. They are massive games. They are massive games because of the 23 games we got left to play, there's probably 6 or 7 games you're thinking, like we said before, Watford might have failed. We're away to Sheffield United, away to Leeds. We've got Burnley at home. There's a few there you're thinking. So those games against the clubs again, that's going to be down the bottom half of the table, are taking on huge status. And unless we get help through the in the January window to get a few players in, and I think we may need more than 2, we're going to be in big trouble. Well, simple, and everybody knows that.
We've got about 4 or 5 minutes. We could do with 4 or 5 hours really, but we'll just cover a couple of things quickly. Yeah, I mean it's this January is just absolutely crucial, and of course the fact that they've gone with Omar Rizza. Would they give a different manager money to pay? Would they give anyone any money to pay? They're not very likely, I don't think, to invest in the current situation. We'll see.
Loans.
But one of the things which is going on, I'll go to you quickly, Pete, on this one. Joel Caldwell, 9 goals in 27 games against League Two. He's doing really, really well. And going back to what Gary said earlier about Barry, not Barry. No, not Barry Town, Barry the footballer.
Louis Barry,
You want your players, if you're developing them, you want them to play at a higher level. You want them to be at a happy, successful club, don't you? So, and the same with Joel. With us, we want him to play at a higher level. Would you be inclined to bring Joel back now?
Well, put it this way: if it's a choice between recalling Ryan Wintle or recalling Joel Caldwell, I'd recall Joel Caldwell, because I just think, again, long term, he looks a serious prospect. Yeah, and I totally agree with the point. We want to be developing our serious prospects rather than other teams' serious prospects. So he looks a really good player. And yes, League Two, but the goals he is scoring have got a bit of class about them. They're not like he's did a tap ins. He's come in, he's getting a couple from 25 yards. He looks a proper player. So I would love to see him back. I still think the big decision in January is not who we sign, not who we recall, but who's going to be the manager. Because I'm not convinced that Reason's going to be in charge by the end of next week.
I won't pursue that one too much, but I know there are various rumours knocking about out there on that. But Jeff, we just we can't keep on flitting from manager to manager, can we, all season? Surely.
No. We've made our decision. Let's stick with him. Let's see what Richard Shaw helps him with. And he's already done. There was a bloody, to me, it was a scene change. See him playing like that at Watford. Let him carry on. We're going to get someone else in. And Robert Page, well, geez,
Well, I
don't agree to disagree on that, Steve. I think if we keep him, we're heading down. Yeah. And I don't think. Let me just say this: I don't think it's Omar Riz's fault, right? The guys, I just think, yesterday aside, he's looked out of his depth for a long, long while now, and I'm really concerned if we keep him. And I think it's this way you make cold clinical decisions. Actually, you look at, you get overexcited by the Watford win. You can end up making a decision that costs you long term. I actually think that Oxford performance was so bad that it was almost unforgivable. And there were a few other unforgivable performances before that. So, it's a big game for Reason on Wednesday.
Yes.
Big game.
Well, let's go on to that, because we're right at the top of the show. So CCFC versus CCFC, of course. The Bluebirds versus the Sky Blues. Big game. They got a couple of key strikers missing. They got the Lampard effect going on. He's a big name. Whether he's going to achieve it as a manager, we don't know yet. Like you said earlier, Gary, maybe O'Dowd could be missing. Willock could be missing. It's an absolutely massive game, and I suppose the most important thing, I don't know, not don't put words in your mouth, Gary, but if I'll say it from my point of view, if we play with the same commitment, the same battle, the same will to win, the same togetherness as we did at Watford, then I think that is the minimum that we want. You're not going to win every game, but if you go out with that spirit, you're going to get the fans behind you, Gary. Would you say?
Absolutely, but is this like getting? Have we won 2 games back to back this year?
Not for a while.
Not for a while.
When Gary in Riz's early spell, we did, didn't we?
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, absolutely. But whether we can replicate that, I think it all depends who's, again, when the team gets announced, because we always seem to get one back and lose another, don't we? As somebody's out, somebody's in, and if we can keep the same team together, maybe. It's a massive game, because following that we're away to Middlesbrough, and that's another game you're thinking.
Well, do you want to give me 2 predictions for those?
Here we go. Heart would say City on New Year's Day. Head says, I don't know. Middlesbrough, not so. I think it's a massive game. We've got to try and beat Coventry, which obviously takes the pressure off us with Middlesbrough then, because I don't think we're going to get a result up there, to be honest, but who knows? But again, I keep saying it again, keep repeating myself. January window will define our season. So they got to act, and they got to act quickly. It's no good sitting around waiting 2 or 3 weeks into the January window because time's passing. It's essential. It's essential.
Pete, we've got predictions for those games.
I think we'll draw both. I think we'll draw Wednesday. I think we've got to stop the rot at home. We've been really poor. As bad as we've been away, we've been really poor at home. I went to Coventry. I think I saw you there. And we were one of our best performances of the season. We won the game. We were better at Coventry than we were at Watford.
We should have won both. We should have won at Stoke as well. We should have won at Stoke.
Yeah, we were terrific. Yeah, we were terrific against Coventry that day. I left the ground thinking, if this is the new dawn, we can. And I did the show afterwards. So we looked the better side that day. So hopefully we can get at least a point on Wednesday. I always think we do it. We either get hammered at Middlesbrough, we win, don't we? So we're due a draw. We're due a draw. So 2 points. But
I wouldn't be too happy with
it's
that.
all about, it's all about who we bring in now in the next month. And realistically, Gary's right. You need to be in the next week or so. Not waiting to the end of the window.
I mean, we're overrunning it slightly, but the problem we got is, the Championship is a really tough division. We're in the bottom 3. We're a big club. We're at risk of going down. We need players as much, if not more, than most clubs. But a lot of other clubs also need players, so it's a battle, isn't it? Jeff, any predictions for the next 2 games?
Winning on a dirty win, 1-0 New Year's Day. The weather's going to be terrible. It's going to be a storm. And we'll win on Saturday.
Can I do this show with Jeff every time I do?
Yes, positive. Be positive. Think the best. Don't hit me with those negative waves, Moriarty.
Right. All right. Well, look, we'll leave it there. And, to all Cardiff City fans, in lots of ways, Happy New Year. Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Cheers, boys.
Ta-ra, lads.
See you, lads.